we were staying in a college dormitory and there were 15 beds aligned in a row. Next to the dorm was a balcony and beyond it played a college sports field. Two of my friends in the team were Jatin Karan JPE, who went on to play one-day international cricket for India, and Vinod Chandley, and together we had planned that after lights out we would sneak around and gather up all the other players' shoes, including their spikes. With the dorm pitch dark, we started throwing them at Kedargat Bull, one of our hapless teammates. Other players were also in our line of fire, and before they could figure out what was going on they were hit by a barrage of shoe missiles. Then they started throwing them back at us. We ducked and their shoes flew over our heads and over the balcony into the adjoining field. Finally, at 2 in the morning, the whole team was down on the ground looking for their shoes and chappals. Ranji Trophy debut the following year, I was watched closely by Mumbai captains Dilip and Sarkar in the Cricket Club of India nets when the Indian team came to play the match against the touring New Zealand team. And Sarkar was impressed with the way I played against Kapil Dev, and sometime later, on December 10, 1988, when I was 15, he told the selectors that I was ready to play for Mumbai against Gujarat, giving me my first big break. And Sarkar himself was busy with national duty and I filled in for him. In my debut match I scored 100 not out and in the process became the youngest Indian to score a century on his first-class debut. I finished the 1988-89 season as Mumbai's highest run scorer and made half-centuries in 6 of the 7 matches I played. Mumbai lost a hard-fought semi-final against Delhi and I ended my debut season with a respectable batting average of 64.77. In the semi-final, Maiden Bhav, former India fast bowler and coach, was playing for Delhi, and I remember playing the straight drive to him that was much talked about that evening. It was a shot that got me noticed, adding to my stock at the time. Everything about the shot was perfect: balance, head position, timing, and the ball raced to the boundary. My performances for Mumbai got me selected for the season-opening Irani Trophy match at the beginning of November 1989. The Irani Trophy, between the Ranji Trophy champions and the rest of India, is a key component of the Indian domestic cricket calendar and is a major opportunity to get noticed. Playing for the rest of India, I scored 100 against Ranji champions Delhi in my first Irani Trophy game, and it was during this match that the Indian touring team for the much-awaited tour to Pakistan in November-December 1989 was announced. Before I knew it, at 16 years of age, I had been picked to play for India. 3 My first tour. I had always dreamed of playing cricket for India. Getting an opportunity to fulfill my dream at such an early age was indeed very special. What made it even more significant was that we were playing Pakistan in Pakistan, and their bowling attack included fast bowlers of the quality of Imran Khan, W. Optim Akram, W. Akbar Yunus and A. Akid Javd, not to mention the left spinners Mushtaq Ahmed and Abdul Qadir. Quite a test for any debutant. It was baptism by fire. So much so that after my very first innings in Test cricket, during which I was all out against W. Aptham and W. Effort, I began to doubt my ability to bat and questioned whether I was ever going to be good enough to play at international level. Before describing my debut series, I want to go back to that first Irani Trophy game for the rest of India against Delhi. I had scored 39 in the first innings before I was bowled by Mahendra Singh, India's ace left-arm spinner at the time. The disappointment did not last long, however, because it was that evening when I learned I had been named in the Indian squad for the Pakistan tour. Ecstatic at my inclusion, I was determined to make a mark in the second innings. The occasion was particularly special because my brother had come to see me play. In fact, since I was a minor and could not sign the tour contract, Ajit had to sign it on my behalf. Vyasu Karan JPE had also mentioned to my father that morning that I would surely get 100 and said that he should come and watch me bat. My father did just that, and, to his satisfaction, what Vyasu sir had predicted came true. However, the century would not have happened but for the contribution of Gursharen Singh, the Punjab batsman who later played the Test match for India against New Zealand in 1990. Gursharen had fractured his finger while batting against the bowling of Atul W. Hasan, the Delhi fast bowler who also made his debut for India against New Zealand in 1990. He was sitting in the dressing room injured, and there seemed to be no way he could play a further part in the match. I was batting well and was unbeaten on 86 when our 9th wicket fell. Knowing that Gershon couldn't bat, I started walking back to the dressing room, assuming it was the end of our innings. Just then I saw Gershon walking towards me, ready to bat one-handed. It was later revealed to me that Raj Singh Dungarpur, then chairman of the National Selection Committee, had asked if he would go out and help me get to my 100. In an exemplary show of courage, Gershon had agreed. In fact, when we met at the wicket I felt distinctly embarrassed seeing him there in such severe pain. I told him that it would be perfectly understandable if we called off the innings. Showing tremendous grit, he told me, "Baby, to tear 100 cart K height inch. I will get back to the pavilion only after you get your 100. He doggedly stuck to his task, and I'm glad to say that his bravery was respected by the opposition bowlers, who did not resort to bowling bouncers. It was a favor I would never forget. It was a show of remarkable resilience by Gershon, and I tried to repay the debt by doing what I could at the time of his benefit match in Delhi in April 2005. I had promised him that as long as he gave me a few days' notice, I'd turn up to play, no matter where I was. I am glad I was able to keep my promise." India in Pakistan, November-December 1989. Encouraged at having got 100 against India's domestic champions, I headed to Pakistan soon after, feeling reasonably confident. Maybe because I was still a teenager, I didn't feel any extra pressure about playing against Pakistan. The whole political baggage of India-Pakistan cricket meant nothing to me. I was simply treating it as my first tour, which was challenge enough. In any case, no one really expected me to be a part of the playing XI at such a young age, certainly not in any of the tests. Some thought I might get a chance in one of the one-day games, depending on the team's performance in the series, while others believed I was there only to get a feel of international cricket. To be honest, all the talk passed me by. I just wanted to do well for India and scored a lot of runs. Other than that, everything else seemed unimportant. That was natural enough, because everything had happened rather quickly in my life. Just 5 years after I took to playing competitive cricket, I had become a part of the Indian squad. It was a pretty quick move from school to international cricket. On arrival in Pakistan I didn't sense any tension and went out for regular meals in the evening with some of the other cricketers. Their friendly approach helped put me at ease, and it was not until we reached Lahore that a curfew was imposed on going out in the evenings. On my travels around India I had always bought gifts such as saris for my mother and aunt and shirts for my father and uncle, and so in the first few days in Pakistan I did the same. This time I bought them some local shoes and slippers. There was tension within the squad, however, as a result of a dispute that had blown up before the tour between the Board of Control for Cricket in India (BCCI) and the players over the issue of players' involvement in a few unsanctioned matches in the United States on the way back from the WEF Indies tour in 1988. The matter had gone right up to the Indian Supreme Court and was eventually settled when the court lifted a ban imposed on the players by the BCCI. The other controversy that arose on the eve of the tour was over the issue of match fees. It had escalated into a serious dispute, with the players opting to give up their match fees altogether as a mark of protest. Fortunately for the junior players in the team, skipper Krishna Srikanth instructed us to stay away from the problems and concentrate on the job at hand, which was to evolve a strategy to tackle Imran, Waitham, Walker and Abdul Qadir. I had a good start to the tour, and in one of the 2 games before the first test, against the Pakistan board patrons XI in Rawalpindi, scored 47 before getting out to Atul Kazim, a left-arm spinner who played for Pakistan in 50 tests. It was a decent innings and I received a standing ovation from the crowd. I began to feel I had a slim chance of getting into the test team and dared to dream of my first test cap. I finally heard the news of my inclusion in the playing XI from skipper Srikanth on the night before the first test in Karachi. It is very difficult to describe the feeling. I was part of a band of 11 fortunate men who had been given the duty of representing close to 1 billion Indians. It was an honor every aspiring cricketer lives for, to play for his country against the best of world cricket. And with the honor came responsibility. I was going to be accountable to the cricket fans back home and was expected to give my best for them. In fact, I could imagine nothing more significant than doing something worthy for the national team and the passionate Indian cricket fans. I was sharing the room with Satil Ankola, the fast bowler who has now gone on to become an actor. Saddle was bowling well at the time and was also making his Test debut. Neither of us could sleep the night before the match. We were both about to start a new chapter and were aware that it was an opportunity that could change our lives forever. First Test, Karachi, 15-20 November 1989. Pakistan won the toss and opted to bat first on a greenish wicket, so I didn't have long to wait to walk onto the field for the first time as an India player. My life had taken a giant leap, and it is a moment I will always remember. It also happened to be Kapil Dev's 100th Test match, and we were all excited for him. Only Sunil Gavaskar and Dilip Vazarkar had achieved the distinction before. My first day of international cricket wasn't without drama, and one incident in particular left an unpleasant feeling. In the post-lunch session, a bearded man clad in salwar kameez entered the field and went straight up to Kapil Dev, abusing him for being in Pakistan. Kapil, who was preparing to bowl at the time, later recounted to us that he asked the fellow to leave him alone and allow him to continue with the game. After his exchange with Kapil, the intruder then went over to mid-off, where Manoj Prakhar, our top fast bowler on the tour, was fielding. He abused Prakhar before moving on to skipper Srikant, and with Srikant he got physical. In those days, with the sport far less commercialized, players could choose what cut to wear. Most of our team preferred t-shirts, but Srikant liked to wear a button shirt, and the was torn open in the scuffle. I was fielding at point, and I was scared I would be next and was ready to run to the safe confines of the dressing room if the intruder came towards me. Up to this point, no security personnel had done anything to stop the intruder from disrupting things in the middle. It was only when the Indian captain was being manhandled that security finally came onto the ground to drag the spectator off. It was a serious security lapse, yet the organizers seemed hardly perturbed. The truth is that it was much more than a cricket match that was being played between the two teams. The political history of partition has always cast a pall over India-Pakistan cricket, and it was my first taste of this unfortunate reality. The next day we were even more astonished to find the Pakistan press suggesting that the intruder had actually been trying to congratulate Kapil Dev on playing his 100th Test match. The issue of Srikant's torn shirt didn't merit a mention by the local media. All at sea on the second day of the match, Pakistan were all out for 409, with skipper Imran Khan scoring 109 not out. Finally, it was our turn to bat. The pitch was lively and we didn't get off to a good start. We were soon reduced to 41-4, with Srikant, Maha Sidhu, Sanjay Manjrekar and Manoj Prakhar out chiefly. Asim and Ekar were bowling really fast, and it was a trying time for every Indian batsman. I hadn't quite anticipated what awaited me out in the middle when I went out to bat at number 6. There's no harm in admitting that I was all at sea against Asim and Ekar in my first innings in Test cricket. I was trying to be aggressive to almost every ball, as that was how I had always played the game. I was trying to get on top of the bowlers, but more often than not I was comprehensively beaten. The pace was far greater than I had ever faced, and the skill on display was of the very highest standard. The guile of both bowlers left me thoroughly confused. An account of one Asim bowler will give an idea of my plight in the middle. I was on strike to him for the third ball of the over, which turned out to be a vicious bouncer. Having studied Asim's bowling, I was convinced the next ball would be a yorker and was mentally prepared for it. It turned out to be another bouncer, which I left. While I kept expecting the fiery yorker, balls 5 and 6 also turned out to be bouncers, and at the end of the over I said to myself, welcome to Test cricket. Not without reason is it acknowledged as the most challenging format of the game. My stay at the crease was short and not sweet. I had lasted only 24 balls, at least half of which I had missed. I had hit the boundaries, but not for a moment had I felt comfortable. It was only a matter of time before I was dismissed. I was finally bowled for a rather lucky 15 by another debutant, Walker Younis, and on my way back to the pavilion my mind was riddled with self-doubt. It was a very important moment in my career. I had come to the international stage after blazing my way through domestic cricket. I had managed to score 100 on debut in the Ranji and Irani trophies, but here I was on the international stage unable to put that on ball. I was struggling, plain and simple. The difference in standard between domestic and international cricket was colossal. I batted only once in that first Test match, which ended in a draw, and in the following days I approached our coach, Chan Newboard, and a number of senior teammates to discuss what I needed to do to improve. I had a long chat with Abhi Shastri, already an established star at the time, who advised me to be patient for the first 15 or 20 minutes, which were bound to be uncomfortable. Ravi was of the opinion that once I had played out the initial burst from the Pakistani bowlers, things would turn easier. The key was to spend time in the middle. But would I be given another opportunity to do so? I could easily have missed out on the second test, not only because of my low score in the first but also because of the way I had batted. It came as a huge relief to see my name in the playing XI for the second test at Faisalabad. Second test, Faisalabad, 23-28 November 1989. I knew it was a chance I could not afford to squander. It would be a big test of my ability and temperament. What made the task considerably more difficult was that Pakistan won the toss on a green top and put India into bat. The stage was set. All through my career I have relished these moments of adversity. It is no good just performing on a doubtful track against weak opposition. The cricketer gets true satisfaction only if he is able to perform in difficult conditions against the best bowlers. Once again we lost early wickets and I went into bat with 4 top-order wickets down for 101. This time around, although it really wasn't my style then, I forced myself to stay at the wicket for the first 15 minutes to get used to the conditions. I have no qualms about confessing that it was difficult. The bowlers were definitely on top at the start of my innings, but with time things turned easier. I was able to adjust to the pace and bounce of the wicket, and my confidence was gradually coming back. I managed to play 172 balls en route to my first half-century in Test cricket and was finally dismissed by Imran for 59. I was involved in a 143-run partnership with Sanjay Manjrekar and though I hit only 4 boundaries, the innings gave me a lot of satisfaction. It also taught me a good lesson, there was no point in trying to blaze my way through every innings. Most importantly, this now convinced me that I could actually cope with international cricket, though I knew I still had a lot to learn. In the second inning I ran myself out for 8, sacrificing my wicket for Mohammad Azharuddin, who was nearing the well-deserved 100. In the end, we managed to thwart the Pakistan victory. After 2 tests the series was still drawn and it was evident that Pakistan were feeling the pressure. Many had predicted the 4-0 score line in their favor and it was starting to play on their minds. Third test, Lahore, 1-6 December 1989. From Faisalabad we moved to Lahore for the third test. Unable to venture out of the hotel in the evenings, the players and the cheering Indian media were feeling a little restless and this called for some original thinking. For the first and only time in my career the media and the players got together for what was decreed a Sunday club. It was to be an evening of stories, music, food and fun, and everyone had to wear something fancy. It turned out to be a very successful experiment, but sadly it hasn't been repeated since. It definitely helped to create a bond between the team and the media, so necessary during an arduous away tour. I wore a blue pullover to the Sunday club and that's where the often published picture of me with a thick mustache, Aussie fast bowler Hughes style, was taken. The food served that evening was unbelievable. Lahore is a foodie's delight and I wolfed down all the delectable kebabs on offer and I loved the haleen stew of meat and lentils. In fact, I had a voracious appetite throughout the tour. My body was still growing and I ate huge amounts. On non-match days I used to eat keema paratha, mincemeat paratha and lassi yogurt drink for breakfast and by the time I went back to India I had put on a few kilos and had also grown much stronger. The Lahore test was local hero jobbed me and Dag's 100th and in the change from the first 2 test matches in Karachi and Faisalabad, we were faced with the flattest of batting decks, which had obviously been prepared to help Job score 100, which he duly did. Even after 5 days, the first inning of both teams had still not been completed. At the start of my inning in Lahore I misjudged the bounce of a straight delivery from Imran, which hit me on my biceps. I was furious at allowing myself to be hit on a flat pitch. The point of impact instantly turned numb and my first instinct was to step out and dispatch the very next ball over the boundary. However, the lesson learned at Faisalabad came to my rescue and I reined myself in. I had worked my way to 41 off 90 balls when I tried to play an on drive to Abdul Qadir and was bowled. I had been batting well and I regret not going on to play a long innings. It was an opportunity missed. It has to be said, though, that the match, a tame draw, was not the best advertisement for Test cricket. Sweet dreams, the fourth and final test of the series was at Sialkot, and we knew that we'd be given the green top, which offered Pakistan's best chance to take the series. By now they were desperate to win. A draw would have been considered a series defeat for Imran and his team. When we arrived at Sialkot, I was invited to the Megabytes Malik Bat Manufacturing Company. Sialkot has quite a tradition of bat making in Pakistan, and at the time I didn't have a contract for my bats and could pick up any bat and plate. I went to the factory with a few of the other players and chose 2 or 3 bats for myself. I was so excited about my new bats that I even dreamed about them one night. Apparently, it was around midnight and I walked straight out of my room asking for my bats. Maninder Singh and Raman Lambu saw me advancing down the corridor and said to me, "Tear bats to tear pass hi. Your bats are with you only." When I didn't respond, they realized that I was sleepwalking. They helped me back into the room and put me back to bed. By that stage of the tour, Raman and I had struck up a good friendship and spent many hours together discussing the nuances of batting. He was fun to be with, and it was absolutely tragic that he died after being struck on his head by a ball while fielding during a first-class match in Dhaka in 1998. Fourth test, Sialkot, 9–14 December 1989. What made the Sialkot test special was that my brother Ajit had traveled to see me play. It was an added incentive to do well, and both Ajit and I still remember the kindness the locals bestowed on him the moment they became aware that he was from India and had come to watch cricket. As expected, the wicket was green, but the December weather was also heavy, resulting in a lot of early morning fog. So much so that play never started on time and it ended early each afternoon. This meant the 4 Pakistani fast bowlers could come at us all day, hoping to roll us over and secure the upper hand. In the first innings I played pretty well for my 35 and was feeling good before falling LBW to W Axum. I wasn't so uncomfortable at the start of my innings and the initial apprehension was no longer an issue. I hit some pleasing shots and scored at a good clip in the course of my 51-ball stay at the wicket. India managed a 74-run first innings lead, with V. Vakram, a fast bowler who played 2 tests for India, picking up 5–79 in the Pakistan's first innings. WE had bowled them out for 250 and understandably Pakistan came back at us hard at the start of our second innings. WE lost a cluster of early wickets and I went in to bat at 38–4, with a day and half still to go in the match. WF was bowling from one end and it was absolutely essential to survive the initial burst. I had just scored my first run when WF bowled a short delivery, which I expected would rise chin high. I misjudged the bounce of the ball. It rose 6 inches higher than expected and hit me on the flat of my helmet before deflecting and hitting my nose. At the time I was the only batsman besides Sachin not to wear a grill. It wasn't an act of bravado, I just wasn't used to playing with one. Ajit, who was sitting right in front of the Indian dressing room, later said to me that he had clearly heard the sound of the ball hitting my helmet and deflecting onto my nose. My vision was blurred and my head felt heavy. After impact, the ball went towards the slits and my natural movement was to see where the ball had gone. It was then that I noticed all the blood spattered on my shirt. As I was trying to recover from the blow, I was amused by Job's knee and Dad's comments. In an attempt to side me out, he was saying things like urged to Abhi Hospital Jana Teresa, Hi. You may have to go to the hospital, your nose is broken. To add to my discomfort, a banner in the stands read, Bakgar Gak Dood Pikya AA. Kid, go home and drink milk. I ignored all this while our team doctor, Vishy was brought, inspected the injury. He put some ice on my nose and asked if I wanted to go off. I did not, for I considered it the moment of reckoning. Going off would suggest I was scared. And truly I wasn't. It wasn't the first time I had been hit, though the impact was much more severe than anything I had suffered before. I decided to carry on and said, Main Kleta. I will play. It was important for my own self-esteem, and by stating in I felt I had made the statement to the opposition. Seeing me continued, Imran asked Job to move away and all the Pakistani players went back to their respective field positions. Soon after the resumption, I got a full ball from W. Eckers on my legs and flicked it to the boundary. I followed it up with a drive on the outside and felt genuinely good about myself. I had treated the balls on merit and wasn't just being aggressive to avenge being hit. Soon it was time for tea and I had an opportunity to regroup. After the break I started to bat really well. I was feeling confident and was determined not to give my wicket away. Importantly for the team, I managed to play out the day and we were on course to force a draw. Shortly after going back to the hotel, however, I felt heavy in the head. We had a team function in the evening but I asked permission from manager Chandu board and went to bed early after taking a few painkillers and having dinner with Ajit and Navjot Sidhu, which helped me calm down. When I got up the next morning after a good night's sleep, I was feeling ready for the challenge of the final day. We were on 102 for overnight and needed to spend at least 2 more hours at the crease to deny Pakistan any opportunity of winning the test. Navjot Sidhu and I held out until I was dismissed by Imran for 57. It was my second half-century in Test cricket. Denying Pakistan the win on home turf was a big achievement for India, especially with the kind of bowling attack they had, and it served as a major confidence boost for the team. We were all elated at the performance. The Abdul Qadir over after the tests. We played a 5-match one-day series in which none of the matches was played for the scheduled 50 overs. While some of them were affected by rain, the third match was abandoned because of crowd trouble after Pakistan had been reduced to 29-3 by some good swing bowling from Manoj Prakar. The first match was due to be played in Peshawar on December 16, 1989 and had to be called off at the last moment because of rain. However, a large crowd had braved the inclement weather and it was finally agreed between both teams that a 20-over 8-side exhibition game, perhaps the first ever 2020 game, would be played for the sake of the crowd. It was a good call, as the fans deserve to be given their money's worth. They are the ones who make the game what it is, after all, and they are pivotal to its health around the world. Most people will agree that even an exhibition game between India and Pakistan can't help being a serious cricket match. That Peshawar Pakistan had scored 157 in their innings, and when I went into bat with 3 wickets down, the asking rate had climbed to well past 11 runs and over. Srikant was batting with me and suggested we should dig in and get some practice for the following games. I was determined to go for the bowling and felt we still had a chance to make a match of it if we played our shots. That's what I suggested to Srikant, and while he was a tad surprised, he told me to play the way I was comfortable with. Mushtaq Ahmed, an up-and-coming Pakistani leg spinner at that stage, was bowling and I hit him for a couple of sixes and a boundary in the first over I faced. While both sixes were hit over long on, the second went a fair distance and hit the dressing room window, breaking the glass. The Pakistanis hadn't expected me to hit it so far and Abdul Qadir, an experienced old hand at the time, walked up domed and said, "Back KO to Mara home, dumb high to move mark K to KO. No point in hitting sixes off the newcomer. If you have the skills, try and hit me." I said to him that he was a great bowler and that I was sure he wouldn't allow me to hit him. With just 2 overs left we needed more than 40 runs and Qadir was bowled with an ultimate over. Our only chance was to attack. I had made up my mind that if the ball was in my zone I'd go for my shots. As it happened, most of the balls were in my hitting arc and I took 28 off the over. I hit the first ball for 6 over long on and followed it up with a 4 off the third ball. The fourth ball resulted in a second 6, which I hit straight over the bowler's head. Seeing me hit straight, Qadir bowled the fifth ball wide outside off stump in an attempt to get me stumped. I had anticipated the move and hit the ball over long off for the third 6 of the over. For the last ball he went even further outside off stump and I stretched out to hit the ball wide over long off, to make it for 6s in the over. The crowd, which had been confident of a Pakistan victory till an over earlier, was roused by this unexpected turn of events and started making a lot of noise. There was a sudden increase in energy levels at the ground. The match was now being played in full seriousness and no one really knew which team would win. We needed 14 runs off the last over, bowled by W. Abdul Akram. Eventually we fell short by 3 runs. Straight after the match, Abdul Qadir walked up to me in true sportsmanlike manner and said, "But Bela batting." very well batted. That innings of 53 off 18 balls at Peshawar had a defining impact on my career. In the eyes of the public, it had overshadowed my effort at Sialkot, which was far more difficult and far more significant as far as I was concerned. The Sialkot innings had allowed us to save the test match and also the series. But for people at home, the innings at Peshawar was the real talking point. It had given me instant recognition and made me a household name. For the first time I was asked for autographs, which was a strange feeling. Before we went to Pakistan, I had been able to go out with my friends and have all the type of fast food loved all over Mumbai and do all those normal things. Afterwards, when I went out with my friends, people would come up and ask if I was Sachin Tendulkar. And it was all down to that one innings at Peshawar. While it would have been premature to suggest I had established myself at international level, it had certainly given me a toehold. When I got home, I could tell that my parents were proud of my achievements, but there has never been any over-the-top celebration in my house. While I knew that my father was extremely happy and satisfied, he wouldn't ever show off his emotions in an extravagant manner.